Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conscious Conversion. So thrilled to have you today. It's a beautiful day here in Costa Rica, and I hope your day is beautiful as well, and that you're taking good care of yourselves. So today I have a wonderful guest that I came across a few months ago. I don't know if my listeners might remember when there was a group meditation call. I think it was March 4th. Was it March 4th? Something around there. Was it April?
I think it was April.
April 4th and 5th. There was this collective meditation call. And I was researching it just to see who was behind it and what it was about. And I came across this amazing woman on YouTube. And I went down her rabbit hole. I was rabbit holing a lot back then. I went down her rabbit hole and she was talking about this meditation, but then I went deeper and she was also talking about sacred geometry, sacred numerology. And it was just really, really enlightening and cool. And I highly recommend you check her out. Now I will tell you who this beautiful woman is. Ahaumna Amaya. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Amaya?
Yeah.
She is a highly sought after intuitive consultant, spiritual teacher, transformational mentor, speaker, and author. Her motivation and intention is assisting the individual through their spiritual initiation of expanded consciousness to support the evolution of humanity. Yes, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. She holds a BS in psychology of crime and justice, and I just found out she was on her way to the FBI before she switched paths. She's a certified holistic health coach, NLP practitioner with advanced studies and certifications in philosophy of metaphysics, human design, astrology, gene keys, and the yogic breathwork and Reiki traditions. Ahaumna, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm delighted to finally meet you sort of semi in person here, and I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
Likewise, it's great to be here, and hello to all of your community. It's really nice to be present with you all.
Oh, thank you. So, given everything that's going on in the world, and I wonder if this has even shifted in the last several months, what kind of impact do you want to make on this planet and on humanity over the course of the next 5 years?
The biggest and most important impact that I feel resonant with right now is really assisting in helping humanity to transition into the new timelines and into when I say the new timelines, I mean like the reality that is simultaneous. It's parallel to this one right now, and it's a few degrees away. So I like to describe it like turning the radio dial, right? Remember like old school in your car when you're like turning the radio dial and you want to listen to like 98.7 and you're at 98.7 and it's clear, but you want to be at 98.9. So to get to 98.9, you got to kind of like go through all the static. And if you're at 98.7, you're not going to be on 98.9. It's like it doesn't exist, but it's there. So right now we're on 98.7 and we want to be on 98.9. We don't realize that 98.9 even exists, though some part of us does. Right? So we have to just change the frequency and get ourselves to 98.9, which is the parallel experience that's happening here, that's free from all of this density and free from all of this corruption and fear and victimhood and suffering. So really right now, my goal is helping to stabilize that new timeline, to be an embodiment of this new reality, this new way of experiencing, and then helping to create organizations and structures, and like we're working on a new Earth School project called the Rainbow Path to create a new education system, and a lot of other amazing things like that. Like our governments have to change, everything has to change. We're working also in the financial system, helping people to become financially sovereign, like really helping to build that new timeline is what I'm most focused on right now, and helping as many people to transition over to that new timeline. It took me like, 2020 now? It took me 10 years to get myself onto that timeline, in a very challenging, long journey. And now it's how can we help people transition to that timeline as quickly and as efficiently and as effortlessly as possible. And that's from more of us actually being stable in that timeline, if that makes sense.
It does to me. I mean, as much as it can in this particular third dimensional body that I have. But I'm curious. In that vein, does everybody have to? Does the whole collective have to join that timeline in order for any of us to experience it, or is it up to the individual? So, are you trying to bring on a critical mass of people so that the entire collective can come, or just so that those people can come?
So it's always a choice, right? We always have some part of us that's choosing what timeline, what reality we're going to be experiencing on. And to say that, oh, everyone is going to be on this new timeline would be an immature reality to think about, because I'm not in control of every person here. They all have a choice. So in order for us to pull apart, to actually, if you could imagine like a plasma ball of light, and like a part of it is like starting to change and it's starting to pull off, but it's still kind of stuck to this other reality. In order to get that ball to completely pull into its own stable timeline, then we have to have a critical mass of people, which is actually a small amount of people.
Yeah.
Right. So if we think about it from like the standpoint of one person fully anchored in divinity, in love, in higher frequency, free from the suffering, the samskaras, free from the fear illusion, one person is equivalent to about 1 million people in a fear paradigm, like the frequency band, right? So the critical mass is actually a very small amount of people. Since there are, some billion people on the planet, it's a small amount of people. And it's similar to like if anyone has seen, and I highly recommend, I can't remember the name of the study, but they did this study with sound where they were wanting to understand like, how do we change the frequency of sound? So basically they started playing sound on sand, and the sand would create these pictures.
I just watched this last night. The difference between 440 hertz and 432, and what happens, and how all of our, listen up, y'all, all of your music that you hear, everything that you hear coming through your radio is at 440, which is not resonant with natural life unfolding. It's not. It creates chaos. Whereas 432 is the frequency of our planet and of, I guess, divinity. I don't know. You might know more about this, probably. 432, you play 432 over sand and everything organizes into like crystalline imagery. Is that right?
Yeah, so all frequencies will create an image on the sand, and it's just a different style of imagery that you'll create. So what you're talking about is absolutely correct. And it's interesting because I have a bunch of sound instruments at our house, and when I order them, I have them custom tune it to 432. And they're like, are you sure you're not going to be able to like play with other people? And I'm like, I'm positive.
You're like totally cool with that. I will surround myself with the 432 people.
It's like, it's just this, there's so much corruption. If we just like pull the layers back, it would be impossible to do that in a 30-minute conversation, because like we have to go back. Like there's a book, it's called The Voyager 2nd Edition by Ayesha Ashayana, and you can go to Arias, ARYHAS, I think, .com, and basically like it's like 700 pages, and that's gonna, if you want like the story of how we got here, that's one of the best places to go for the story. It's going to be very dense and very challenging to read for the vast majority of people. That being said, just like take it in small bites. If you really want to enjoy Voyagers, the 2nd edition.
Okay.
The first edition is not available anymore. That being said, she wrote the second one to just replace the first one because it was updated based on the energies of what was happening. And yeah, so that comes from Kalantic science, which is the deeper science of what happens when we bring together spirit and matter and actually look at how the fundamental mechanics of the multiverse works. So it's very it's very science-based, physics-based. There was a lot of physicists who were involved in these teachings. That being said, I'm a total geek when it comes to this type of stuff, so I love like absorbing it. The book itself, though, really goes through like the story of how we got here, like how, like people talk about the deep state and all this stuff, but that's just like the human version of a much bigger thing that's happening. And all of that is written within there. So it talks about how we got to this place, how everything was corrupted. The video you watched where I was breaking down the flower of life, which is actually a part of that AI corruption. And it's literally corrupted our entire planet, which is why our planet is mirroring that back. It's actually corrupted our entire solar system. So to like break this down is really impossible in a 30-minute conversation. That being said, like these little tiny things that we can do in our life, like tuning our instruments to 432 instead of 440, can help us to disengage. And I just like to say just pull out, unplug from the noise, because it just ends up running this static, running this noise. It's like having music playing in the background, right, of your head, just like these songs that pop in. That's actually a part of the noise. That's a mind control mechanism that keeps people not able to hear the higher frequencies or their intuition or their soul or their guardians or their guides and all the beloveds that are here supporting us. It's like this noise is constantly playing. So our role is to tune out the noise. So if we go back to that radio dial, right, between those stations, to get from one station to the other, you have to flip through the noise, right, and the static. And sometimes it can be very frustrating. You can't find your station and you eventually just give up and turn the radio off, right? So there's so much noise right now, so much static right now to distract us from finding our station, from finding like our destination, from finding the timeline that we're destined to be on as a whole, right?
It's just a matter of time. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Right? And frequency, right? It could be, when we say time, like time is, as we know it, is an illusion, right? So it could be 50 years or it could be the snap of a finger, right? In the grand scheme of things. And from that standpoint, we can collapse time and do it within ourselves. Like it just it's just dependent on what happens within ourselves, right? So throughout everything that's happening right now with the virus, and I'm in the US while we're having this conversation, with the racial movements and the presidential campaign and all these things that are happening, the financial system, everything. My message within it all has been to go within, right? Go within yourself and find all the places that are angry at what's happening, that are upset by what's happening, that are triggered by what's happening, that are resonant with what's happening, and start to look at those places, because those are the places where there's static, where there's noise, where your frequency is not in tune, in alignment with what we call love, right? Which is really just a frequency. It's the timeline that we're moving into, right? So as we find that shift, that change, what I was talking about with the sand was that a different experiment from the one you were talking about is they just say they're playing 178 hertz. That makes a pattern in the sand. Then they want to change to, let's say, 200 hertz. What happens is the sand stays in the 178 hertz frequency pattern until a pivotal threshold is met, where it's getting literally pressured with this new frequency. In the beginning, it's like it starts to shake a little bit. It's like it's like it doesn't know this new pattern. It's never been in this new pattern before. So it starts to shake a little bit, and the new frequency keeps getting played, and pressuring that pattern to change. And eventually it finally just shifts, and it's in a brand new pattern. And it would take a moment to go back and, again, pressure it with the old frequency for it to change back. So that's really where I see humanity right now, right? We have this pattern that we've been playing in. And a new pattern, a new frequency has been pressuring us really for the last 8 to 10 years. And it's now, the volume is turned up now, and it's pressuring us even more. So humanity's like in the shake. It's like, I don't know where to go. Everything has to be rebuilt. Everything has to be changed. How do we do that? It's like unsure if it actually can get to this new pattern. So the dial has just been turned up now, and that's what we see around us, chaos happening. Because right before the pattern shifts, chaos is what is the feminine creation power of chaos that creates something new. So we're in that like new frequency, yet we haven't shifted into the pattern of it yet.
Oh my God. I don't know about y'all listeners, but this is my favorite conversation ever. Yeah, love that. Thank you for that. Who do you feel like resonates with you the most? Like in all of your sort of in your business and in your marketing of your programs and your work one-on-one, what kind of people are resonating with you?
As far as clients go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the most part, people who come into my fields, they are what we would call awakened. They have been on their spiritual path for a while, and they are no longer resonant with what we call the New Age movement. They're recognizing that there has been a lot of what I call false light, whereas there's been a lot of like promises and everything is light and love and not like being grounded in reality. So a lot of the people who come in, they want this spirit, they want more connection to their intuition and to their guides, and they are plugged in this way, yet they're ready to really ground it and anchor it. So they want the wisdom behind why is all of this happening. They want the science, they want the understanding. They're like ready to really activate a bigger presence in this reality. So I like to just say they're first and second wavers that have then gone through the whole false light New Age movement, which is like everything is light and love, yet never defining what love actually means and being on the surface of everything. And then they've gone now to their deep dive and done a lot of deep dive work. And a lot of that deep dive work they'll do with me. And now they're coming out and they're recognizing like, oh, there's a holistic way of living. There's a middle path that we can be on. So does that
that totally makes sense. I'm so here with you. Cool. So how do you reach people like organically, first of all? How do you do you do paid ads or anything like that right now, or is it all organic? Okay. How do you find your people?
Yeah, so everything is organic. So I've been working online for the last 6.5 years. So it's almost been 7 years. And predominantly, I have a medium-sized Instagram audience. I don't really use Instagram anymore. That was a method that I used a lot and built to like 12,000 people. I just don't enjoy the platform, so I don't really use it anymore. Mainly what has built, like, I'll have waves of thousands of people coming in at a time, and it's through videos that I'm just so tapped in to the message that's coming through. And it's like the video that you saw, some odd, close to 20,000 people, and several thousand people immediately came into my field, like friend requested or joined my communities or all the things like that. And that was a video that I couldn't not film. Like the way I describe it is like, I will literally start to vibrate and buzz, and like this message has to come through me. Otherwise I will not be able to contain the energy anymore. And I actually shot that video 4 times because 3 times I was trying to do it live and Facebook would not allow it to happen.
Of course not. They're like, we don't want you to tell the people this information.
It cut it out 3 times. And I finally was like, okay, I'm just going to film this on Zoom and upload it to YouTube and be done with it, because like the internet is having a hard time holding space for it. And I actually wasn't able to use Zoom either. I ended up using just my video recorder on my computer so that there was no internet involved at all.
Wow. Well, it made its way to me, which is incredible. Yeah. So I love that. Yeah. So basically, the way that you reach people, correct me if I don't say this, it's basically channeled intuition, like tapping into what source needs from you and moving from there.
Yes, and just be in your truth, right? So I film a lot of videos and I post a lot of content that is just my truth, right? And that's the one thing because I help spiritual entrepreneurs actually get programs started and launched, as well as other things that I'm up to in the world. And it's just about being your truth, right? And a big shift that happened for me was I recognized that there were conversations I was having with my partner that I wasn't having online. And I was like really starting to tune in with, okay, why am I not having these online when this is my real truth? This is like the all in who I am and what I see from the world. And it wasn't that I wasn't sharing a lot. I've been sharing about this path for a very long time, and people really respect the work that I put out into the world as far as posting and sharing. Yet there was this piece that was missing because it wasn't being shared at all. And that's what I then encourage people to do. Like, what are you talking with your friends about that you're not saying online? What are you talking with your partner about, or your clients about, or the people that are in your reality that you're in these one-on-one conversations and you're really like activated and talking about all the things that are happening that you know are happening that you're not saying online? Those things, when you bring them online, are you being your most magnetic self, like your truth just shining, and your truth is so magnetic, right? So it's just getting really confident and just sharing your truth from that space that's fully authentic, and it will draw in the people who you're meant to be working with. So it's just been honestly sharing from that space continuously.
I love that. And I can relate to that. I was just talking to you before we hit record on this about how I'm feeling about the podcast. And I love my podcast, y'all. I love it. But I'm having a lot of conversations here with friends that I'm not having online because it's like, ooh, this is getting a little edgy. This is getting a little further off the spiritual mainstream path than what I've been on. And I'm feeling like really called to start, and so I'm really grateful to be having this interview with you talking about these things, because this is exactly where I'm wanting to head. So,
and we just imagine humanity's at the edge, right?
Yeah.
So they're there.
Yeah.
Right? They're at the edge. And something that I've noticed is, like, because of the false light New Age movement, and because of the lack of integrity within that, and what really happened online, and maybe you've seen this happen, where there was like a surge of everyone deciding they wanted to be life coaches and spiritual teachers online. And this like surge happened, and like the bro marketing happened, where it's like, do this, create this funnel, do this system, do that there, publish pictures of you like doing these things, and you're going to make millions of dollars. So everyone like was like, oh, I'm going to get on board with this. And what it created was a lack of integrity in the industry, and a lot of false light projections coming out. And I've had so many people come and work with me that have had trauma from working with other coaches, whereas they sometimes didn't even show up for calls. They basically just took people's money and didn't do anything. Like, all these really crazy things I saw were happening. And that's felt in the whole, right? And that was a part of, the false light New Age movement was devised in the fall of Atlantis, right? So as I was talking about, like, if we really start to span out, these agendas have been in place for way before we think they were. We're, oh yeah, just a few thousand years. Like, no, we're talking millions and millions of years have these plans been in place, right? Have these corruptions been working through not only the earth. So we have to go and start to recognize that false light and New Age movement was devised during the fall of Atlantis, so that during this period of time, which would be the Great Awakening, Earth evolving into a new frequency band, a new timeline, that what people call the deep state, which is really something so much greater than that, but we'll just use that terminology for relation in our minds to like grasp what we're talking about. That was put into place so that all of the people who were sent here to this earth to be a part of the great shift would be trapped in the false light New Age movement, so that they couldn't help move forward and anchor these new timelines. right? So because of that, the collective started seeing what was happening in these communities and was like, I don't want to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's tons of ego, there's tons of glamour, there's so much illusion. It's like this reality that the collective was never going to be open to. Right? Humanity's on the edge, and they want the real story. People can tell the fluff. They don't want the fluff. They don't want the woo-woo. They want to know what's real.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
and these conversations help them get there. Go ahead.
No, I love it. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I'm curious, one thing I want to move towards on this podcast, and it's still in formulation, is how can we make this very sort of, it feels esoteric, it feels hard to grasp. How can we bring this down and make it actionable?
Mm-hmm. One strategy that I've been using, and it's throughout my book, Creator Consciousness, is really taking metaphors and really giving very basic examples, like the example with the radio dial. Put it into words that make sense to our human, right? It has to make sense to our human. If it doesn't, it's going to be gone. And what happens a lot of times is that as we open up and as we expand our higher glands and we start to operate from more than just 10% of our brain, we expand our dialect, we expand the language, we expand the frequency, we expand the words. And then, like, you'll read some posts, and sometimes I have a hard time translating these posts because it's so disconnected from how we talk as humans, right? So we have to bring through simple language. We have to know, okay, yes, we're here, but humanity's here, and they need the apple. They don't need the multi-orgasmic red beacon of spectrum light. They need the apple.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like breaking down, giving examples, very tangible examples, using metaphors, using analogies, really breaking it down in ways that are so simple. And giving those examples, and people realize, like, oh yeah, I see how that's happening.
Yeah. What kind of, do you have any like rituals or routines or something that you do on a daily or almost daily basis that helps you sort of show up aligned for your audience and for your offerings?
I used to.
Okay.
So I used to have a lot of, well, basically my philosophy now is I've sort of grown past the need to be online, because I have built a following, because I have built an audience, that I can go offline for a month and come back online and people are still going to be wanting to see my stuff, right? That being said, when I was not in that space and I had to play with algorithms and had to play these things, it was always about making sure that I was tuned in and speaking from my heart. So this was maybe a few years ago. It would be a matter of just sitting and getting present and doing a few deep breaths, especially if sometimes I like to, well, I always write everything in a note form, notes, instead of like on social media, because I'll be inspired by, say, something that's happening. And maybe that's something that's happening, the energy is too charged and it's coming from a different space that's not actually my heart. So I can write that out, let that energy move, and recognize whether or not it's meant to be for me to just have that process or for me to share. So in the beginning, it was just getting centered, just being in my body. Being grounded is the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I really let go of all daily practice and all rituals and all of those things at this stage in my journey, because if we rely on routine, on like rituals, on daily practices, we'll get to a point where we might not actually realize if we have attained something, if we have reached something within ourselves and healed something within ourselves, or if those practices are just masking it. Right. So there comes a point on the journey when even the practice has to go.
Are you embodying it on a moment by moment basis, so that everything is ritual, everything is ceremony, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I noticed a shift. I used to, and I still do, I have a morning ritual that I do, 4 or 5 days a week that involves like conscious embodiment, dancing, and sort of a primal movement and meditation. And I noticed a few weeks ago something about the shift is happening that has impacted my body. And I just
Yeah.
noticed that even my just like normal movements of like grabbing my water bottle or washing the dishes or picking something off the floor has become part of that dance and that embodiment. So
Yeah.
I'm saying that just to say I totally hear you, and that makes all the sense. And that like the don't keep your rituals confined to 1 hour every morning, but instead expand that into your entire awareness in life.
Yeah. And just let your offerings and your sharings just come from your heart, right?
Yeah.
Just be really like, be in a genuine desire to help people. And share from that space, if that's what you're doing in the world, which is likely all the people that are listening to this.
Yeah, absolutely. What is, well, first off, before I ask you that question, what are the offerings that you've got? I think you mentioned a course. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've got going on?
So I have a few different things. One, I have a whole business that's called Destiny Mapping. And that is working with the human design and the astrology and the gene keys in a system that's called Destiny Mapping. And I'm now training facilitators. So I have facilitators who lead those sessions, and then I'm training facilitators. So I have that course that actually just began last week. And so that's the Destiny Mapping business. Really amazing. That's the rememberwhyyourhere.com site if people are interested in really having clarity on their purpose. Like, why am I here? What is this all for? Getting those answers. We have incredible facilitators who can really help to guide that and answer those questions for people. And then I work with a system of quantum, or technology, better yet said, of quantum biofeedback, where this is the financial aspect of what we're creating, a world of sovereign, financial, independent, light workers who are prosperous, because that's another really important part of our shift, is that light workers, spiritual beings, become prosperous financially. So I'm working with quantum biofeedback technology, and I created this frequency of called Quantum Money Magnetizer, and it's running the quantum biofeedback technology in a group setting through these people's like quantum field, which is not only their body, it's their energetic bodies, it's also their entire family, so their entire ancestral line. It's also all of their simultaneous incarnations. Some people like to call those past lifetimes, future lifetimes. They're really just simultaneous. And all their different probabilities. We all have 144 probabilities that are simultaneously happening. So it's running these frequencies throughout their entire hologram and having amazing, like just transformative. We're having people with money just showing up in their mailbox, and people selling out all their programs and having like huge offers of abundance. And then our community talks about, how do we invest in the future? How do we invest in actually alchemizing money, having the money that we're earning transform into more money, so that we can build all of these healing centers and build these new earth schools and build new ways of relating to each other. Because we really are in this Capricorn energy, in this new building, and it really requires us to have the resources to do so. So that is a program that runs every 30 days, and people stay in it because they just keep working with the frequencies, keep upgrading their relationship to money. Then I have, so this is the last of the business building aspects, my solutions program, spelled Soul-lutions. And that works with helping people in copywriting and actually marketing their program and preparing for a launch. So it takes them through building their site, putting their program online, and then copy editing everything. And one of my gifts is actually, some people are channels, I'm a translator. So I translate consciousness. And I can translate anything that is very woo and bring it into words that people can understand, so that we can actually sell our amazing gifts to the world and help to awaken more people. So there is a whole copy editing aspect of that, where everything gets edited and really clear to sell to the masses. And then they go through their program launch. So those are all my business aspects of what I'm doing. Then my passion, my passion project is my healing work that I do. My partner and I, we have a healing center in Asheville, and we do in-person immersions, and we have some of the most advanced healing technologies on the planet that come from Russia and Germany and all over the world that have previously been banned in the United States. And we bring people here to do really deep healing work and also activation of our higher plasma body, because ultimately at this point, if we really want to clear things as quickly and efficiently as possible, we have to go beyond our light body. We have to go to the core, which is our plasma. Plasma is at the core of everything. We have to go there to clear everything. So we're doing these Becoming Immortals is what it's called, immersions at our home. And then I do trauma healing online through a program called Fearlessly Express that really works with people who have neurological, so brain. I would personally guess that around 90% of the population has some form of traumatic brain injury or traumatic brain damage that has created their nervous system to be misaligned, their gut to be misaligned, their connection to spirit to be skewed. And so that program goes through, it uses technology so people receive these technologies and then go through a process of healing their brain, giving them the user's manual to their brain and their nervous system so that they learn how to desensitize their nervous system from being so overly sensitive that they're living in anxiety and stress and fear, and really reclaiming their body and being very grounded and healing their brain, healing their nervous system so that they can have, like, being here right now on the planet is very challenging. We all know that. And in order for it to not be so challenging, we have to heal our nervous system and the fight or flight response, and heal our brain to get our brain out of protection mode, survival mode, and into creative mode. Because we can't heal in protection mode. And right now we've been living in protection mode because this world is
for a long time.
Intense.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, I basically, after every single description, I was like, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. I don't need the business building one, but I want to know those people. So I'm curious, like, what's your next level and how do you plan to reach and impact even more people with these amazing offerings?
Yeah. And it's probably a little bit, it's like my next level is likely not most people's next level. My next level is actually doing less, not really sharing much, spending more time offline, and just really kind of unplugging completely from all of it. And it's interesting that the less I do, the more people that come into my reality. So it's a little like our brain can't necessarily make sense of it sometimes, because we're like, oh, we have to work really hard and do a lot and do all these things. And yeah, my next level is being offline the majority of the week and taking a lot of space for myself and just really anchoring in the new frequencies of abundance and prosperity, and just being more in the magic of existence and not in like, oh, I have to work really hard and do all these things, because And if you get to that point where you're like, I'm going to go take a break, but I really want to automate my marketing, you know who to hit up. Yeah, for sure.
Tell me how people can find you. We'll include, I have a list of links that we're going to include in the show notes, but is there anything else you want to share that's like top of mind of how people can find you right now?
Yeah, so the best place if you want to be like plugged into my daily sharing and things of that nature, following me on Facebook is going to be the best place to do that. And it's just Ahaumna, my first name. And I would say to not send me a friend request, to just follow, because there's about 2,000 friend requests in my inbox right now, and there's no way I'm going through them all. So that's just where we're at. So just follow me on Facebook, and then the websites that will be posted here, rememberwhyyourhere.com. The new one that's going to be launched in July, which is Becoming Immortals. That one will be available next month. So
amazing. And you've got a book too, yeah?
Yes. So that is Creator Consciousness. It's available on Amazon all over the world right now. Again, just type in Creator Consciousness, Ahaumna, and you're going to find it. And so much activation came through that book. I wrote that book in a month. And then it took me about 15 months of stabilizing the frequency that I brought through when writing that book, which was a very interesting experience. I actually wrote it in Masara in Costa Rica. And then came back to the States, and I was like, oh, okay, I've just been like in this like frequency activation for so long. I have to like, my body had to catch up to it. But it's 13 key codes, and it takes you step by step through unplugging from being a consumer and the stories that we've been sold, and really how do we tap back into being creators. Mm-hmm. And it breaks down energy dynamics and principles in a very simple way that anyone can understand and apply to their life to take their power back.
I love it. I love everything you've said. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. And I look forward to a friendship with you. So yes, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Enjoy.
Bye, everyone.